This is Brannon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon House.
And welcome to the broadcast on this Monday night, April 14th, 2025. We're on the road. We're about to do our first Worldview Weekend rally in 7 years. We're going out to Milwaukee tomorrow. We're in the area, and we'll have our Worldview Weekend rally at the Waukesha Expo Center. We have well over 1,300 people now registered. And you can join us as well. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Tonight, we're going to talk about this article right here with Troy Smith. DeSantis hope Florida scrutiny deepens amid new revelations on $10 million payment, says Politico. We have an article as well from Troy Smith of slingshot.news, the $10 million slush fund payout that will derail the DeSantis Dynasty. What is this all about? We'll get into this tonight with Troy Smith of Slingshot News. And we're going to be joined by Nick Helsher. Look at this. Breaking. Study identifies 86 serious neuropsychiatric safety signals linked to COVID-19 vaccination. Thousands COVID safety threshold breached for 86 adverse events, including dementia, schizophrenia, suicidal and homicidal thoughts, stroke, psychosis, depression, cognitive impairment, delusions, and more. Nick Helsher on this groundbreaking study done by Dr. James Thorpe, who is traveling. Otherwise, we'd have him with us tonight. We also have our buddy, Dr. Peter Breggin, who took part in this study. Of course, Dr. Peter McCullough. We're going to talk about that tonight as well. And then I want to bring you also a presentation from back in 2018. It's time to bring it out of the vault. We don't often bring stuff out of the vault too often because we want you to be vault members. But tonight we're going to bring something out of the vault. A keynote presentation by my friend, the late Phil Haney. He was a founding member of the Department of Homeland Security and was warning DHS officials about all the Islamists coming into the country and the terror cells. And he said if he had been left alone, he says he could have prevented the San Bernardino terrorist attack, Chattanooga, Little Rock, and so many more. But he wasn't allowed to stop these terrorists from coming in. He said that people like Hillary Clinton and others would let these folks come on in and send them on down the road. And of course, he ended up writing a book, See Something, Say Nothing. And many of you know he died under very suspicious circumstances a few years ago on the side of a road, shot in the chest in California. Many of us who are his close friends, and he filmed his show in our studio, believe he was murdered, and with good reason. But I want to bring you a presentation tonight from Phil Haney that I think is very timely for all that we're facing with the war. Give me that, Dolly. With the war on America through Islamists. So we'll deal with that tonight. Now, we are headed to Milwaukee. We're not too far away right now. And we'll be joined by about 1,300 of you. And if you still want to register, we have seats, but you must register online at worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events, and get registered. It's free, but you must register so that we can have plenty of seats available. All right, let's do that. worldviewtube.com/events. So we are set up here in our little studio. A hotel suite we got, and we're set up, and we're going to just keep broadcasting and bringing you the truth. And if you are a Vault member, by the way, these cameras will all be taken down and taken to Milwaukee with us, and we will be live streaming it for all of you that are Vault members at worldviewtube.com/vault. If you want more information about joining, worldviewtube.com/vault. What are you trying to do? She is out of sorts today. What is up? Well, you're gonna knock the whole studio table over and everything. What is wrong with you? You had to make an appearance, didn't you? Okay, you cannot have my coffee. Okay, that you cannot do. But you can make an appearance, and then you can go lay down and behave yourself. Or is that too much to ask? Say, this is my first time up north, y'all. I've never been up to Yankee Land. You do like the grass, though. She's very intrigued. The grass here is very different from down in Memphis. So she does like the grass, I'll tell you that much. So you're having a good time, aren't you, Dolly? Yes, you are. You're a little bored. Like this hotel suite is not as nice as the studio at home as far as room to move around. What is she doing now? Are you tangled up? You were. I think you got untangled from all the cords. You're about to pull everything right off the studio desk, right? Behave yourself, all right? I know that's a lot to ask for a 10-month-old puppy. But you're almost 11 months old, actually. You'll be 11 on the 16th of April. So you're 11 months old now. All right. What should we tell them about before we go to our first guest? We should tell them about Bella Grace, right? This is the product I take every day. You cannot have that water bottle. This is the product we take every day. I take it every day. It's loaded with 3 very important ingredients. Collagen, cat's claw, which is anti-inflammatory. Cat's claw, I said that. Astaxanthin. And she's just being a brat, isn't she, Logan? I don't know what it is about Brandon House Live. She doesn't bother me during the Worldview Report. You notice that? She doesn't. It's only during Brandon House Live that she does this. I don't know how she knows a difference between those 2 programs, but clearly she does. But anyway, get your Bella Grace. MelissaHouseBG.com. You can do what we do. I take it each and every day. I stop the cracking and bleeding in my hands, which I think was tied to my leaky gut, according to Dr. Lucky. The hair growth has been amazing. I haven't had to take a Pepcid since December of 2023. Get a subscription and save. Let me just take you over there to the page real quick. MelissaHouseBG.com. MelissaHouseBG.com. She's going to take off my bag that all my products go in and tear it up, isn't she, Logan? MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, so get your subscription. Melissa loves the skincare. There's the elixir. Melissa loves the skincare. There's her endorsement of that. She loves that. Bring me that, Dolly. Thank you very much. You cannot have the bag that all my great products go into. You'll tear it up. That's a nice little bag. I don't even know what this bag stands for. Do you, Logan? Oh, what? Lululemon. All right. Well, all I know is it's a nice bag for putting all my stuff in. So you're not getting that. But go over there. You'll find out about the Bella Grace skincare, the Bella Trim. Logan, are you still on the Bella Trim? Yep, he's still on it. Melissa takes it. All natural, plant-based weight management. Curbs your appetite. Great for your cardiac health. We also have this restorative sleep. Melissa takes 2 of those every night. That helps her to stay asleep. So here we go. Come back to me. Here we have the Bella Grace, Bella Trim. The Bella Trim. We have that. We have the restorative sleep. This is the bag. I was using the bag to carry all this with us. All right. We have that with the gummies. And so again, check that out. MelissaHouseBG.com. Also, be sure to go over to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Of course, really? worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And one of the products that I take each and every day, and that is the Gatatana right here. The Gatatana. Also, Dolly gets a half a scoop on her food every day. This 1 scoop is equivalent of 90 billion plant cells, and it's got trace minerals, it's got fatty, important amino acids, fatty acids, and as I said, trace minerals, all kinds of great products. Great for you, great for your pet. You can get the pet product if you want, or just share yours with your pet. That's what I do. I just share my Gatatana with Dolly. Sales on this spiked in the middle of February, and well, they should, because that's when we really started telling you about the man behind it, Tom Harper, and his terminal diagnosis. So he just started eating the phytoplankton he was raising for shellfish, and voila. I'm just telling you, I'm not making claims. They went and did 11 biopsies. They all came back benign. So again, this gets right to the cellular level, right to the cellular level. Are you really going to do this to me all night? I mean, this is the one nice thing about the studio at home. It's too tall for you to jump up on. But here with our traveling news desk, you really just think you run the show, don't you? All right, what else real quick? A friend of mine called me from high school today. I stay in touch with him, but I haven't talked to him in a while. He said, hey, he asked me several different questions, but he said, what do I need to know? How dangerous are the times? Are we going to World War III? What do I need to know? What should I be doing? I said, well, he's got a family, a wife, child. I said, you need to be making sure you have plenty of freeze-dried food on hand to be on your own for a few months, at least. You need to make sure you have all of your antibiotics, all your meds. And I told him about the wellness company and worldviewhealthcare.com. I told him about getting this wellness kit and has 2 kinds of antibiotics, including amoxicillin. And I said, look, we got this trade war going now with China. No idea what they're going to do. And if they decide that they want to shut us off of all of our pharmaceutical, you cannot have my coffee. I don't know, Mom started a bad habit of letting you try coffee, and now the dog is addicted to coffee. Get down. You're a monster. Down. Where was I, Logan? China. If China were to cut us off from our pharmaceuticals, what would we do, right? You want to go ahead and have this stuff in advance now. So go ahead and get your wellness company, worldviewhealthcare.com. I wonder if there's any sedatives in here, Logan. Should we see if there's any sedatives in here, Dolly? Worldviewhealthcare.com. Get your medical kit. So I told my friend, make sure you have your meds, your medical kit, your antibiotics. Make sure you have your freeze-dried food. You can get that from us, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. And then I said, make sure you have, your guns, your ammunition, that kind of thing. And the ability to make a fire, boil water. Go to worldviewstore.com. Everything you need, a lot of what you need is there. The checklist is there, the products we offer. Worldviewstore.com. But do that. And then I would also recommend, obviously, getting yourself a satellite phone. Get a satellite phone and make sure that you're able. I'm traveling with my satellite phone. I have my bivvy right here. I'm able to text through the bivvy to a satellite down to any family member that has one. My satellite phone is sitting over there on the desk. So I travel with this stuff. I'm not joking. I travel with emergency medical kit. You want to know the truth? Logan, what's in the trailer? We bring our 16-foot enclosed trailer. What do we have out there in the trailer?
Freeze-dried food.
Freeze-dried food. Yep, we do. We brought about 3 months. So that's 9 months plus gluten plus veggie and fruit. Yeah, we brought several months worth of freeze-dried food with us. Why? I get up here and the power grid goes down. I don't want to be without stuff. So when I travel, which is not very often, but when I have to travel, I bring my medical kits, I bring my satellite phone, I bring my bivvy, I bring my freeze-dried food. I got several things like that, folks. So again, be prepared. So my friend from high school calls, he's like, are we headed to World War III? And if so, what do we need to do? I said, hey, look, we may be. But then you got cyber attacking, you got threat of EMP, terrorism. We go against Israel and America go against Iran. Israel, America attack Iran. Who knows what their terror cells could do? What if someone poses a false flag, like we discussed with Leo Holman the other night, and they do something and let off a terrorist attack in the country and try to blame it on Russia to get Russia and America to go to war with each other? Kind of like we looked at that Tom Clancy movie, right? Sum of All Fears the other night. That interview, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's at worldviewtube.com from Friday night. So we have to be worried about false flags that try to push us to war. All the crazy psychopaths in Europe. Now in Germany, there's an article out tonight at worldviewreport.com. In Germany, they're preparing the school children for possibly going to World War III. Yeah. So I said to my friend from high school, you need to be aware that there are folks that would love to see the empire of America and Russia fight each other because they don't like the nationalistic flavor of either country, and they want to absorb us into the new world order. So I gave him the checklist of things I think he needs to do to be ready. Same checklist I give to you guys as well. Check it all out. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You'll find all of our sponsors there. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Troy Smith with Slingshot News. You'll find them on Slingshot News. At Slingshot News is their handle. We'll show it right here. At Slingshot News. Now, don't make the mistake I made earlier today. I put in only one S. So if you do news at News Slingshot, you only put in one S, you're going to get to the wrong page. Put in two S's. Spell it out. NEWSSLINGSHOT. Well, Governor DeSantis, he gave a speech here pretty recently. I think it was today. We'll find out from Troy Smith, the host of Slingshot at worldviewtube.com. Roger Stone's reporting on this quite a bit, as well as others. I don't know. I'm just reporting what's being put out there. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis becomes enraged while speaking about the $10 million Hope Florida scam. Screams for about how unfair it is. What is all this about? $10 million? Something involving his wife. He claims he's being attacked. Let's get the scoop because Roger's tweeting about it, Roger Stone. Troy Smith is talking about it and tweeting about it, and he joins us now. Troy, welcome to Brandon House Live. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Sir, I just want to say thank you very much for the hospitality you've shown me over the last few months with Slingshot TV and now welcoming me here on the show. It's truly an honor, and you guys are really the best in the business, but everybody knows that.
You're very, very kind. Thank you, Troy. Appreciate that. Glad to have you on board. All right. So what's going on? $10 million, Hope, Florida. What is all this about? How does it involve his wife?
Well, Brennan, it's a very sad story, really, especially when you consider the subject matter here. You see, Casey DeSantis, who is yet to declare for the governor's race in Florida, is going to declare. Sources tell me that she is likely days or weeks away from making the official declaration. Now, Byron Donalds, the representative, the Trump supporter, who's had a long track record of supporting conservative values, he has already declared in this race, and Trump has already endorsed him. In fact, it was Trump's prodding him to get into the race that actually created the scenario that we're talking about now. So a few years back, Casey DeSantis ushered in this charity called Hope, Florida. And now a shocking corruption scandal is upending this scheme of Ron DeSantis and his wife trying to push this dynasty in Florida. So it was recently revealed that Casey DeSantis' Hope, Florida charity received a $10 million payout as part of a settlement with the state's largest Medicaid provider at the behest of Ron DeSantis' Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration. The money was moved into Hope, Florida, a charity 501c3, from the AHCA as part of a $67 million settlement between the AHCA and Medicaid provider Centene regarding alleged overpayments made to pharmacy benefit managers. Now, Brandon, $57 million of that 67 total went back to the taxpayers, while inexplicably, $10 million of the money was directed by Ron DeSantis' administration to be donated to his wife's charity. Now, there's another wrinkle here, Brandon, that's particularly troubling, and that is that once the money goes to Hope, Florida, which is supposed to be about cancer, by the way, that group dispersed two different, separate $5 million payments to two separate political committees which were advancing the governor's agenda in the last political election. So we have right here the facts. You can check it out on slingshot.news. We posted an article about this. You can also find it at our Substack. This is cut and dry. The money goes to Hope, Florida, at the direction of Ron DeSantis' administration, and then is dispersed to help him politically in 2024. Now, Brandon, if that's not corruption, I'm not sure what is.
Wow. And now here it is at Slingshot News, slingshot.news, the $10 million slush fund payout that will derail the DeSantis Dynasty. Then if you go over to, I think Politico has an article on it, if this is it. Yeah, here it is, Politico. DeSantis Hope, Florida scrutiny deepens amid new revelations on $10 million payment. Subtitle, two groups wound up giving money to the effort to defeat the Pot Amendment within days of receiving it from the Hope, Florida Foundation. Roger Stone is also tweeting out on this, if I can find that real quick. I think I just saw something from Roger. Here it is. Roger tweeted out April 13th, corrupt Governor Ron DeSantis and his pushy, self-absorbed wife diverted $10 million from Medicaid to their political slush fund. They did it with the assistance of the occurring Florida Attorney General. They must all be arrested, charged, and convicted, end quote. Now, that's Roger Stone. Who is the occurring Florida Attorney General? I'm guessing that's the one that's acting right now after Pam Bondi went to being the U.S. AG?
Absolutely. And he is a DeSantis toady who's been appointed just recently. And it's been a situation in Florida where the Attorney General has basically gone after, his name is Youthmeyer. He's gone after all of DeSantis's political enemies. Like, for instance, when we saw the Tates arrive in Florida, he was quick to take action against them. He's been quick to take action on a lot of things. But, Brandon, on a lot of key issues, he's been absent. One would be the the investigation into Ryan Ruth, the man who took shots at Mar-a-Lago and was shot at by police and escaped earlier in the election cycle, just in 2024. It took them up until just a few weeks ago to charge Ryan Ruth. And we're looking at this and what's going on? Why are they so slow on issues that matter to Trump supporters, that really matter to the voters of Florida, but on things like, the political will of Ron DeSantis, whether that be going after the Tates or really expediting a lot of the things that Ron DeSantis is trying to push through towards the end of his term here. The Attorney General's at his beck and call. So, Roger, I've spoken with him about this at length. And we both agree that this scheme would not have been able to happen if it wasn't for the Attorney General of Florida. So in any kind of investigation, Brandon, that we're going to hopefully get into here in a second, and that the Attorney General and FBI Director will hopefully look into this, we need to have some kind of accountability on this kind of issue. But, when we have accountability on this, it's going to involve the Attorney General as well, because none of this could have happened without his supervision and his complicit behavior. I mean, it's terrible what's going on here in the state of Florida. The people are being.
Wouldn't they expect that this is gonna? You're a political figure. Any financial transactions are going to be highly scrutinized in the political world. Why would they be apparently so careless? Again, I haven't seen the documents. I can't vouch for the reports, but Politico's reporting it. You're reporting it, Roger, Laura Loomer. So there must be something to the accusations. So why would they be so careless?
Well, and let me just say that the very gracious Laura Loomer, who is just an unbelievable talent. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who is unbelievably talented, unbelievably gracious, unbelievably kind, and just, they take her and they make her into some kind of monster when in truth, she's the hardest hitting journalist that we have in the country today. And she's revealed so much about this, Brandon, over the last couple of years, that we were kind of left questioning, why isn't anybody picking this up? And now, as we head towards the end of Ron DeSantis' second term, we're starting to see those in the Florida legislature turn on him. You have to think that that's because he's coming to the end of his political line. Ron DeSantis will not be able to run for governor again in 26. And, there's been some speculation he may try to ascend to the U.S. Senate or other things. But it's not going well for him politically. I can tell you that just talking to people here in the state of Florida. His propositions, the things he wants to go out and grab after his governorship, they're not panning out. And so the last-ditch effort here is Casey DeSantis. And they're attempting really to once again spit in the face of President Trump. We can't forget, Brandon, that it was Ron DeSantis who ran an anti-Trump campaign challenging President Trump in 2024. He backs down, and now he's attacking President Trump's endorsed candidate for governor in Florida and attempting to insert his wife into the race in order to continue his dynasty. To answer your question as to why they would do something so bold, I think that these are people who have gotten away with basically anything they've wanted because of their absolute power in the state of Florida. But as that power wanes, Brandon, we're seeing these people, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, kind of seize on the opportunity here, and the cracks in the foundation are showing. I'm predicting that even though Casey DeSantis probably will be a favorite heading into this election, that Byron Donalds and President Trump will prevail. I know it's early to make that prediction, but just based on what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at, it appears to me that there's going to be some serious consequences, particularly for this Hope Florida scam.
Well, let's play the clip today. Was this today, Monday today, April 14th?
This press conference was before 10 a.m., so this was very early in Kissimmee, Florida this morning.
Wow, let's go to Governor Ron DeSantis on this. Here we go.
I want to say one thing. So, when you're in this business, you get used to, a lot of baseless attacks. That just goes with the territory. But I do think it's really sad to see manufactured smears against the First Lady and the program that's Hope Florida. Hope Florida is actually an example of government succeeding in lifting people up. And how many examples do we have of that happening? Almost never. But the Inside of Hope Florida didn't ask for any money for it for the legislature, didn't need any new policy, but just through the First Lady's initiative that we are going to reimagine the way we provide services to those in need. And so instead of the job of somebody working in these agencies to just try to get people on as many government programs as possible and keep them on indefinitely, we're transforming the role to be a hope navigator, where the job of government is to link those people in need to all the wonderful resources that we have throughout our Florida communities. So we've enlisted the faith-based community, we've enlisted charitable organizations, we've enlisted businesses, and we've enlisted individual volunteers who answer the call when somebody comes in need. The needs go into a care portal, and all of a sudden you have a single mom that doesn't have a place to stay. It's not the bureaucracy that's going to lift her up. It's the church that comes over or the charity that comes over to do that. And what are the results since this has been implemented? We've gotten 30,000 people off welfare and saved the state of Florida $100 million. And so that's a great success story. Now, that's a success story that threatens some people. That's a success story that's going to invite attacks because people have their own political agenda. And I got to tell you, I'm used to the baseless smears from liberal media. I'm used to the baseless smears from Democrats. I've been dealing with it for over 6 years. It's par for the course. But I think now we have Republican leadership in the Florida House joining with liberal media and joining with Democrats to launch baseless smears against Hope Florida and by extension myself and the First Lady. Let me tell you something. None of these Republican leaders got elected on the platform that they were going to launch baseless attacks against the governor and First Lady. That is not why they got elected. Had they run on that, they would have lost their primaries. They would never have been elected in the first place. No, they were elected to continue our success in Florida, to build off the great achievements of the last 6 years. They were elected to cut property taxes, which they refused to do. They were elected to help alleviate and end the condo crisis, which the Florida House has refused to do. They were elected to continue our Florida First agenda. And what are they doing with their actions? Not only are they trying to sabotage that agenda, but they are stabbing the voters in the back with their behavior. Shame on you in the Florida House and your terrible behavior and leadership. Questions?
Wow. Yeah, he's quite upset here. Are you going to have the chance to put a microphone in front of him, or is Laura Loomer? I mean, I know Laura would have no problem walking up to him or sending one of her people to do that. You think there's going to be an opportunity to see that?
Well, you can be assured Laura doesn't have any fear. I know that. No, the governor of Florida does a very good job of hiding himself. And you can see past instances where Laura's tried to confront him, or I've tried to confront him, or other people have tried to confront him. And you simply can't do it because he doesn't like to be in public. He doesn't put himself out there. And Brandon, this is a foundational issue, I think, with him as a politician. As a candidate for governor, you can kind of obfuscate yourself. You can kind of put yourself in a corner and let certain select media outlets come to you. But when you're running for president, the cameras come at you at all angles. You cannot control your media. You have to know how to manipulate media as you do it. And Ron DeSantis is in the camp of politicians, unlike President Trump, I think is kind of unable to do that. Now, I just want to point this out for all the folks at home. You have to understand, when Ron DeSantis talks, he has a very specific formula. He tells you something that you want to hear, and then he pivots away from the thing that he doesn't want you to hear. What you heard in that statement was Ron DeSantis pivoting, trying to get you to instead look at his accomplishments, when if you actually investigated his accomplishments, there really aren't that many. State of Florida has been saved by the voters, the people of the state, not by Ron DeSantis. But when you look at his statements, you actually examine what he's saying, Brandon, it's a very specific formula. He gives you something, some red meat, cultural stuff. I stopped woke. I did this. I did that. And then he makes excuses for his corruption and pivots away from it. It's the formula he's used to sucker a lot of people into believing that he represents MAGA. But when you look behind Ron DeSantis, you really find Jeb Bush. You really find people that have destroyed this country, the Republican establishment that we want to move away from and not go towards.
And he, of course, prided himself supposedly in keeping Florida open, but yet wasn't he the one shutting down the beaches and everything else in reality?
Absolutely, he was. And we have so much on this, Brandon, and we could go for hours on this. Since DeSantis took office, homeowner insurance premiums have tripled. DeSantis greenlit utility rate hikes with Florida Power and Light, jacking up power bills in this state by at least 20% since 2020. Median home prices have jumped 65%. So now it's not really affordable for middle-class people to live in the state of Florida. He's fast-tracked sprawl, gutting environmental protections, and this is not stuff that the hippies are pushing. This is stuff that protects crucial wildlife places in the state of Florida. He's let people run rampant over that, and as you said, he locked down the beaches. So when we look at what he's actually accomplished, it's all bravado. There's actually no substance. And if we had a governor in the state of Florida like Byron Donalds, I think you'd start to see. I mean, I know you're not living down here, Brandon, but we have roads like I-4 that go across the state of Florida that are literally parking lots 24/7, 365 days a year, 2 a.m., 2 afternoon, 11 a.m., 7 at night, whatever time. It is always backed up. And we have a lot of money in this state. We have a lot of opportunity, but these things aren't fixed. The people of Florida have been ignored, and unless we get a governor that actually cares about them, these problems just simply aren't going to be addressed.
Now, tell me about his wife, Casey. Tell me about her. I hear she really wears the pants, that she's the driving force behind him. Is there any truth to all this? That she's really the one that's the political animal?
Well, I think in order to answer that question, all you have to do is look at this scheme that we've unfolded here at Slingshot News and with Roger Stone and Laura Loomer and others with Hope Florida. The money is directed by Ron DeSantis's government to go to Casey DeSantis's charity. And then that charity pumps money back into the political causes of Ron DeSantis. So in short here, they are a group. It's a family of people who are obsessed with power. They are obsessed with making sure that they are a dynasty in the state of Florida, and they want to run things forever. I mean, and when we look at Ron DeSantis, yes, you're right. He doesn't wear the pants in his own family. It's been stated time and time again that Casey is the one that really surges forward. And if you want proof of this, one of the greats that sadly passed on, Rush Limbaugh, DeSantis goes around and touts the idea that Rush Limbaugh said to him, wow, your wife should be the one running for president. And he touts that, Brandon, as like, oh, wow, my wife, she's so special. I think what he was trying to say, Mr. DeSantis, with all due respect, is that your wife is actually the one wearing the pants. And anybody in the state of Florida knows that. Anybody who even watches them in a press conference can see that this guy cowers to his wife. It's left me asking, and I think a lot of other people, how many decisions are left to this woman who was elected by nobody? And I think we're going to see as she enters.
Yeah, that was my next question. That was my next question. Has she really been the one running the state?
No, it's a perfectly good question. And when you examine what people have said about her, when you examine how Ron DeSantis acts in public, it's very possible that Casey DeSantis is the one that's actually issuing the decisions here. And, it's just a situation. We know for a fact that Casey DeSantis was the one, we've heard this from sources time and again, that Casey DeSantis was the one that pushed Ron DeSantis into the presidential election in 2024. So I think I'm asking, along with the people of Florida, what is she going to get him to do next? I mean, seriously, is there anything she won't make her husband do for their own political gain?
Wow. Yeah, and why, when President Trump helped him win the House, that was the seat he was running for that Trump helped him get. I don't think he would have gotten it without Trump, correct?
Absolutely, and that extends to the governor's race as well, because Ron DeSantis was a fledgling candidate with zero support. I mean, literally zero support until President Trump endorsed him. Actually, a man named Adam Putnam was leading the race. He was the favored candidate, and once President Trump endorsed Ron DeSantis, he skyrocketed. So he owes his entire political career to Donald Trump, who he then stabbed in the back once, now twice. And I think people in Trump world, Brandon, are looking at this and say, how many times is this guy going to jab the knife into the president, jab the knife into the MAGA world before he is roundly rejected? I think his rhetoric is keeping him alive right now, but time will tell. I think it's going to fall.
Troy Smith, Slingshot News. It's slingshot.news, slingshot.news. They have an article all on this. Great work, and great having you here tonight, Troy. Thank you for being with us.
Mr. House, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here on the network as always, and thank you for being so kind to me and giving me the opportunity to be here. I hope everyone will check out Slingshot TV right here on Worldview Tube that airs, I guess it's 3 o'clock Central. We love that show, and we love the opportunity to come on here. Hope we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, you can count on that. You can count on that. Thank you, Troy. Check him out, 3 o'clock Central every day right here at Worldview Tube and at slingshot.news. Slingshot.news. All right, folks, before we go to Nick Helsher, I do this every day. This is filled with glutathione. Glutathione, as you know, is a naturally occurring molecule in your body. Starts to break down, diminish at around age 20. The glutathione, 162,000 studies of glutathione at PubMed, helps to quit it, helps to detox your cells. See, another problem with broadcasting from a suite is she hears every noise going up and down the hallway and thinks she has to protect us, which is good. I appreciate you alerting us and protecting us in case the FBI wants to come in here. But I don't think we have to worry about that anymore, do we, Logan? Numi, filled with glutathione, detoxes your cells. And some studies show it may help remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So please go to swishforlife.com, swishforlife.com. One other I want to promote over here at worldviewtube.com/sponsors is worldviewwater.net. Worldviewwater.net. I have one of these under my kitchen sink. It's the water I drink from, this filter. It adds magnesium. It adds oxygen. I have one for the shower as well. That's the one on the far bottom right there. Yeah, that's the shower. It takes all of these chemicals out of your water. Many of them are cancer causing, right? So again, if you're interested in protecting your health or that of your family and your pets, this is the water Dolly drinks. So please get your water filters from us, worldviewwater.net. And you can find out about all of our sponsors at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Nick Helsher. He is the administrator of the Peter McCullough Foundation. Take a look at this headline tonight. Breaking: study identifies 86 serious neuropsychiatric safety signals linked to COVID-19 vaccination. This is a huge story. Let me give you the subtitle. CDC FDA safety thresholds breached for 86 adverse events, including dementia, schizophrenia, suicidal and homicidal thoughts, stroke, psychosis, depression, cognitive impairment, delusions, and more. As you know, Dr. James Thorpe, we've had him on here talking about a study that he and others were involved in that showed that there were cognitive problems, psychological problems early on with people who got the shot, people who could not really be involved in reason, logic, and context. They had depression and suicidal and psychological problems. Now, a further study by Dr. Thorpe, we would have interviewed him as well today, but he's traveling, and he texted me, he said, why don't you get Nick Helsher? He's posting about it over at the Focal Points website, thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. Have you noticed more people stripping off their clothes and walking through airports? We have, and we played video clips, of course, scrambled, of the people doing just that on airplanes or in the airport. We interviewed psychiatrist Dr. Peter Breggin. And I said, look, I'm not a psychiatrist. That's why I'm having you on. But these are like manic episodes. He said that's exactly what they are. Some of them are the side effects, if you will, or maybe the effects of psychotropics. Others, we have to ask, is this, again, coming from the shot? Let's talk about that tonight with Nick Helsher. Nick, welcome back to Brandon House Live. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Tell me all about this study, will you, please?
Yeah, so what this study does is it confirms our suspicions and observations of the past 5 years that common sense has completely deteriorated from the minds of the population. And so what this study did was they looked at the VAERS system back from the 90s and all the way up till 2024, and they looked at what's called PRRs, proportional reporting ratios. What this is how many more adverse events occur with the COVID shots compared to the flu shot or other vaccines. And what they found was absolutely disturbing. 86 safety signals of these neuropsychiatric adverse events, some of them up to 3,000 times higher than the flu shot. And we have to remember the CDC, FDA, safety signal is defined for PRRs as greater than 2. Well, all of these were greater than 2, and this includes schizophrenia, dementia, Alzheimer's, cognitive impairment, strokes, brain clots, homicidal tendencies, homicidal behavior, psychosis. So people are hallucinating, and so it's clearly damaging the brain. This is such a large number of safety signals. And it also confirms what of a study that came out 2 weeks ago, where people who had strokes, they looked inside their brains and they found they are in fact producing this toxic spike protein for up to 17 months in their brain after these shots. And so that probably explains why we see this deterioration in cognitive function.
So, in other words, this can take time to build up, but as their body for 17 months or so is continuing to produce spike proteins, the brain damage continues, so it can take time for the damage to manifest itself. And isn't it kind of interesting that we're seeing more of these manic episodes in public places all around the same time? And if you go back and you say, well, what started that could be what could be the cause and effect? Well, maybe the shot. And now enough brain damage long term is being done. You're now starting to see people in public have these manic episodes. Is there any correlation, you think?
Oh, I definitely think there's a correlation between all the craziness we're seeing, not only with the people, these manic episodes, people running around naked in the airport, but also what our governments are doing. I mean, our governments are absolutely crazy at this point, or at least they were back in 2021, yes. 2022. And so I think it's people who receive, I would say people who got two mRNA shots, the primary series, they are not going to be suffering nearly as much as those who got 5, 6, 7 mRNA booster injections that just gave them such a large amount of mRNA in their neuronal tissue that they are just producing insane amounts of spike protein, causing these autoimmune reactions and resulting brain damage.
So that could also manifest itself into more violence, more road rage, more people, just innocent people walking down the street now being attacked, as we can see, right? So this could be manifesting itself in a myriad of ways, but most people watching the news would never say, hey, is this connected to the shot? And not that I'm saying every episode is, but the average American is not going to associate maybe what we'll see long term as an increase in violent crimes being associated with the COVID-19 shot. Because it does seem as though we're living in a day and a time when people just have lost their common sense, lost their civility, lost their filters, lost their self-control. Maybe some of it is also that we have phones and everybody's filming everything, but I still don't think it was anything like this when you and I were growing up. Certainly not when I was growing up in born in '69. This is, the level of insanity of what we see. Just when you go to the grocery store, sometimes the behavior that you see people engaging in, the fights you see people engaging in, something. I'm not attributing all of this to the COVID shot, but clearly something is coming to the environment. Maybe it's the shot combined with toxins in the food, in the water, the side effects of psychotropics. But like we really needed one more thing to cause people to become unhinged, right?
Right. Yeah, a lot of this is probably just these neurotoxins, in the food supply, in the water supply, all this aluminum, and all these pesticides. So all of this stuff, microplastics even. So all this stuff is kind of building up in people's bodies at this point, even electromagnetic radiation, these novel technologies that they roll out. So it's just so many things that could be contributing. But we have to remember
you just mentioned all the technology. Are you talking about 5G and the fact that we're always surrounded by electromagnetic forces? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, I am. This non-ionizing radiation, they only test them for basically heat, right? So they see, does it burn you or does it not burn you? That's basically all they test. So they have no clue exactly what the novel, like 5G technologies, 4G technologies, when they roll it out on a global scale, they don't know how it affects humans. But in fact, there's now a few studies out that show actually cellular dysfunctions, brain damage, and cancers associated with these technologies that are not addressed at all. And in fact, we have no clue what the full safety profile is.
So knowing all that you do, Nick, as an epidemiologist, what do you do on a personal level? We promote Bella Grace here, which has got 80 clinical trials behind it. We promote our Numi, which has glutathione in it to detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. We promote Gatatana, which has got 5 clinical trials behind it. It's a phytoplankton that goes right into the cells, loaded with protein, loaded with amino acids, loaded with trace minerals, loaded with all kinds of things that are really good for your body in helping to repair your cells, so your cells can have an immune system that's boosted to fight off the free radicals and different diseases, right? So we're promoting those all the time because of the things you're mentioning now. What do you personally think of those things, and what do you personally do in your own life? What do you recommend to your family and friends? I know we're not giving medical advice here, but what's your medical opinion on all of these things? I'd be more interested in what you personally do. If you know all these things, I'm assuming you must have some mitigating protocols you put in your own life.
Yeah, that's correct. And what you laid out, it's absolutely fantastic, especially glutathione. I mean, all these toxins do deplete our intracellular glutathione, leaving us prone to this oxidative stress, which causes all sorts of problems. So we definitely want to replenish that glutathione. And you can do that obviously with direct glutathione like you're talking about, or you can do that with what's called N-acetylcysteine, which is a precursor to glutathione that can increase intracellular levels as well. But outside of glutathione, obviously everybody knows of vitamin C, right? It's absolutely essential. Most people don't eat any fruits, so they basically don't get any in their diet. And we have vitamin D, which I think is absolutely critical, especially for these for these vaccine injury syndromes that are affecting so many people, even these long COVID syndromes, so from the virus as well. There's now so many studies showing when you raise your vitamin D levels to adequate amounts, all of these syndromes improve drastically. And so it's absolutely critical for that. And I think those are some key compounds. And then we have the base spike detoxification, which we also published in the journal Curious a few years ago in the National Library of Medicine. That's just nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin, which are the most promising agents at the moment to degrade and block the binding of spike protein in the human body. We need long clinical trials, large-scale double-blind placebo-controlled trials to confirm these observations, but our government failed to do so. So I think all of these compounds show promise at the current time.
Wow, that's good to know. Let's go to your X account. So with this new study, dementia is 140 times more likely. Suicidal thoughts, 150 times more likely. Homicidal ideation, 25 times more likely. Psychosis, 440 times more likely. Brain clots, 3,000 times more likely. Schizophrenia, 315 times more likely. Depression, 530 times more likely. Violent behavior, 80 times more likely. Cognitive decline, 115 times more likely. Delusions, 50 times more likely. Yeah, this is a very, very, very important study. And Dr. Thorpe, our buddy Dr. Thorpe was involved, along with Dr. Peter Breggin. That's our buddy as well. And Dr. Peter McCullough, not to mention the other ones. I guess I should mention them. Christine Cosgrove, Stephen Hatfield, and Drew Pinsky. I don't think I've left anybody out. Claire Rogers. So where can people read the full study? I guess on your at thefocalpoints.com, correct?
You can head to the Focal Points. Right now, it's actually uploaded on preprints.org. So it's a fresh, brand new study. They just completed it. So we'll be entering the peer review process any day now. And I would expect that it'll get published relatively easily in what we call friendly journals. Those are the journals not compromised by Big Pharma. But if they try and go for New England Journal of Medicine, all these compromised journals that manipulate data, I would expect it to be difficult. And so we'll see which way they take. But it's an absolutely solid study, great methodology. I would expect it to be published after successful peer review relatively quickly.
You also have on your X account that a new study shows young adults likely produce toxic spike protein for at least 1 year after that COVID-19 mRNA injection. We said 17 months a while ago, but younger people are producing it. Are they producing it not as long as others, or what?
No, so what this study did was they followed a large set of young people, young adults. The mean age was 27 years old, so my age basically. And they followed people who got these mRNA shots, and for a year, over a year, actually 13, 14 months. And what they found was, so they get the shot, and then 14 months later, they still have what's called these elevated inflammatory cytokines. So what that means is their body is still producing these cytokines, this inflammation, in response to what the authors of that study suspect. And what we suspect is the persistent production of your body. Your body is producing the spike protein for years after the shot. And so that just further confirms what we've observed with all these other studies, is that, this stuff doesn't go away. It just stays in the body, and you just become this forever toxic spike protein factory.
Let's go to another one on your X account. I had it on my worldview report tonight. We got several states, seven states in all, proposing criminal referrals. I have put forth criminal referrals for Dr. Fauci and others: Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Louisiana, Florida, Pennsylvania. I bet you see my state of Tennessee added to that real soon. Do you think there's any chance that we'll ever see Dr. Fauci go to prison? Or do you think he'll go to trial? I mean, I guess in one sense, we could just pray that these criminal referrals are picked up and he has to spend a lot of attorney fees on this. Well, another question would be, will it really damage him? Or does he have insurance and government insurance that comes in, since he was a government agent, that comes in and pays for all his insurance? So can he even be punished with just the fact that he has to go to court and pay legal fees? I'm not into lawfare, but there should be consequences. And I wonder if this guy, if he doesn't get convicted, doesn't find a jury that convicts him, will we be able to say, well, at least he had to go to court and spend a bunch of money defending himself? Oh, I'm wondering if the taxpayers end up picking up even his defense.
Well, I would hope we don't pay for anything regarding Anthony Fauci at this point. But regarding these criminal referrals, those were filed by the VIRES law group. This group, I believe for the past year or 2 years, they have collected over 90 victims whose family members or themselves have been murdered, injured or severely abused by hospital protocols that were recommended by Anthony Fauci and other top public health officials during the pandemic. These criminal referrals were filed now in 7 states to their attorney generals. And what they accuse Anthony Fauci and others, such as Peter Hotez, Deborah Birx, Peter Daszak, so many of these key players that many of us have heard of, these criminal referrals are accusing them of things such as murder, mass negligent homicide, abuse, fraud, kidnapping, battery, and even terrorism. And so these are very serious accusations, and there's actually currently 2 county-level active criminal investigations that this law group revealed. And so it is actively being investigated, like for real. And so I would call this the beginning of a justice phase of the pandemic. This is how it starts, and I would expect it to expand onward since. We're going to keep putting this information out there. We're actually going to connected with this law group, and so we're going to try and make this movement bigger because so many people have been harmed, and we only move forward once accountability has been served.
Excellent, excellent. Finally, over at your Substack, or not your Substack, your X account, you say we published the largest COVID-19 vaccine autopsy study ever conducted, providing that they can kill. Among the 240 deaths adjudicated as related to the vaccine, the primary cause of deaths were, ready folks, sudden cardiac death, 35%, pulmonary embolism, 12.5%, myocardial infarction, that's 12%, vaccine-induced thrombotic, oh boy, here we go, help me out with this one.
Thrombocytopenia.
Hey, thank you very much for a guy with dyslexia. That one's not as easy. Myocarditis, 7.1%, and multisystem inflammatory syndrome, 4.6%, and cerebral hemorrhage, 3.8%. Wow. So you guys have done the largest study so far, autopsy study. How did you go about doing autopsy studies, Nick?
Well, what we actually did was we scavenged the entire internet, the entire peer-reviewed literature for every single autopsy that was conducted and properly reported with COVID-19 vaccines as an exposure. So we literally got all of them, literally every single one as of that date, as of that cutoff date in 2023. And there was 325 of these autopsies. And we listed, like you just said, the primary cause of the death. So that's what killed these people that died from the vaccine. And so obviously we know that this vaccine batters the cardiovascular system. That's why we see sudden cardiac arrest, myocarditis as these top causes. But we also know that it does harm the hematological system, interferes with blood clotting, causes these massive clots. That's why we see these clotting syndromes as the primary causes of death. And we see this multi-system inflammatory syndrome because this mRNA goes into all your vital organ systems, and these systems produce this toxic spike protein, resulting in this body-wide inflammation and multi-organ failure.
Wow. Oh, man. You're doing such great work over there at the McCullough Foundation with Dr. McCullough. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate all you're doing. I want to point people to thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com, as well as McCullough Foundation, McCulloughFND.org. And, of course, Nick, you can follow Nick on X at McCullough Fund, at McCullough Fund. And then, of course, his own personal is at Nick Helscher, at NICHULSCHER, at NICHULSCHER. Nick, I hardly don't turn on X. I don't see you somewhere giving an interview, doing something. You're doing great work. Thank you for all you do, Nick.
Thanks for having me so much.
Nick Helscher checking in tonight. Follow him on X, at Nick Helscher, checking in tonight on Brandon House Live. All right, now, before I go to a special presentation from my friend Phil Haney, the one of the founding members of the Department of Homeland Security, who was killed under very suspicious circumstances several years ago. We produced his show. He filmed it in our studio. We were very close friends. He warned many of us, including myself, several times he was ever found dead. He did not kill himself. That's what the FBI wanted to see. I wish Kash Patel would open that one back up, because we showed you the autopsy from the coroner. He was saying it was murder, homicide. And then after the FBI took it over and released their final report 2 years later, they said it was suicide. And they magically found a suicide note that had never been mentioned. And we were told by family and other people there was no suicide note. 2 years later, one magically appears, happens not to be in his handwriting, nor the way he wrote. So I don't know what's going on. But maybe after you listen to this presentation from my Ozarks Worldview Weekend in 2018, you'll get an understanding what Phil was trying to warn us about. Some of the same threats that we're facing today as a country. Before we go to that presentation, I want to bring you right back here to this page right here. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. I want to this time highlight real quick Worldview Talk. I told you earlier, I have my satellite phone with me. I bring it with me when we travel as well. Make sure you have the ability to communicate with people if the grid goes down, if cell towers go down. Get your own satellite phone. It's free. Free when you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. You can also find out about their solar generators as well. Maybe you want to use the 866 number, 1-866, what is it, Logan, 738-3224? Yep. Wow, pretty good for the old man, huh? 1-866-738-3224 if you would like to get your own solar generator. You can order it online, but you probably want to ask some questions. But all of it is at worldviewtalk.com. You can get the Bivy, which allows you to use your current phone, even if the cell towers are down, to compose the text, hit send. It'll go through the Bivy up to the satellite and down to your family member that has a Bivy. So again, all of this is available at worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Now, don't forget, another great way you can support us is by simply going to our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Where's that one, Logan? There it is. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. This is the foundation. Our foundation helps us push out free programming, keeping it all out here where you can watch it. Whereas many people would put the 24/7 stream behind a paywall, we keep it out front for everyone to watch. Worldviewfoundation.com. And we even put the shows up online the next day for you to watch again for free. Worldviewfoundation.com. Check it out. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. All right? With that, let's go to the auditorium from our 2018 Worldview Weekend keynote presentation by Phil Haney, a warning I think we need to pay attention to right now as well. Watch this.
That would be awesome. I'm really good on that. Hello, everyone. So we're going to start with a quick prophetic overview because this is an assembly of believers. So we should start at the foundation. And it takes the Holy Spirit to enable us to comprehend both the eternal promises of God. That's why we're here, because we believe in them, don't we? And his everlasting covenants. The covenant that he made with the people of Israel and the land, and the one that we were grafted into and becoming co-heirs with those promises. This is something the Lord showed me a long time ago, that Israel reveals the hearts of men. Is that true? Would you say in the world we live in that men's hearts are revealed by their opinion or their position with Israel? And that Jerusalem will sift the nations. Will Jerusalem sift the nations? Yes, it will. And down at the bottom in Hebrew over there is a very beautiful prophetic verse, and that is lo, which means not. Yishama od, shall you hear ever again Hamas. Have we heard the word Hamas? Hamas means violence in Hebrew. Be'artsech, in your land. There's actually a time coming, friends, when there will no longer be Hamas in the land of Israel, both in the natural sense and in the supernatural. By the way, in Arabic, Hamas means zeal. Did we have people in the Bible where we recall that were called zealots? They were jihadis of the time. And imagine the power that Jesus had to walk up to them and say, come and follow me. And they actually did it. What if Nasrallah or Mahmoud Abbas or Khalid Mashal or maybe the Ayatollah of Iran heard the voice of the Lord and came to him and in public declared, I have seen the Messiah. People did that back in time of Jesus. In that day, the Lord of hosts, and I put the word in Hebrew because we hear the Lord of hosts in songs, and the word is Savaot, and it means armies. The Lord of hosts is the Lord of armies, shall be for a crown of glory and for strength to them that turn back the war at the gate. This, my friends, is where we are tonight. We often ask, what is it going to take for our country to find the wherewithal to come back, to recover the values that our country was founded upon? Or as Lincoln said to Congress, to disenthrall ourselves and then recover our country or save our country, the last best hope on earth. This to me is a theme of our meeting the whole weekend. It's from Isaiah 28, 5 and 6. And what does it mean, the war or the battle at the gate? What does that mean in modern language? The fight is going to come down to the point where the most important tactical position, would you consider, for example, Washington, D.C., as a gateway into the country and as a gateway out of the country, right? The battle will come to the point when those who see him and know him will be called to defend take the last stand. It's the bottom of the ninth, 3 and 2. And it says at that moment, in that last moment, that the Lord will give us strength and that we will what? Turn back the war at the gate. The gates of hell will not prevail against us. Part of what I've learned as I've traveled around that there are 1,000 times 1,000 groups like ours tonight that are seriously seeking answers to the questions and the challenges that we face. And since I have the opportunity to travel around, I want to encourage you that all across our country, there are assemblies of people just like us tonight who are doing just what we're doing. And that's worth being encouraged for. Wouldn't you agree? I knew that President Trump was going to win. And I said so many times. It's a good thing I was right, huh? Because I knew that the mainstream media in their measuring of the currents of the country were not dropping their instruments down far enough, and they were missing it. And I said so many times. I was in Nebraska, in Omaha, the night of the election, by choice. I wanted to be here, in the heart of the country, not here. Because whatever happened, I wanted to be where the heart of the country was. And it was a morning of high fives, fist bumps, and hallelujahs. And I got to participate with the group about this size in a real celebration. Because just like the declaration or the battle, our song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming." Did you ever thought that that was a question? The song starts with a question. The question was, what flag will we see in the morning? And many across the country who went to bed weren't really quite sure what flag they would see in the morning. Would it be the one with the H and an arrow going who knows where? Or would it be the red, white, and blue? And weren't some of you, or at least people that you knew, very pleasantly surprised that it was the red, white, and blue that was flying in the morning? Yes? So do you believe that the Lord intervenes in the affairs of men? Yes. President Trump's a proof of it. And then this unlikely character ends up declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. and opens the door wide for a promise to be fulfilled in the life of our country, that they that bless Israel will be blessed, and they that curse her will be cursed. The Lord is going to bless us because he always keeps his promises. That doesn't mean that we should slack off, but it means that we should recognize the time and seasons that we're in and redeem it, which means buy it back and make the best use of it. I'd like to come back next year and not say anything. Rather, listen to you and hear the stories of what exploits that you will do between today and next year at this time. And this is an illustration. This is the Zion Gate in Jerusalem. Look carefully at all the bullet holes in the wall. That's the most fought over position in in Jerusalem. It's an illustration of what I just showed you, turning back the battle at the gate. The word in Hebrew is milkama. It just means flat out warfare, violent conflict, what Islam calls jihad. What about the battle here in America? The first thing that we want to talk about is, what are we fighting against? I hear this a lot, but I have boiled it down like going from grape juice to wine to brandy, the fermentation, the concentration. And see the red part? I mentioned this earlier, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new government. That's exactly what our adversaries and opponents in the world are seeking to do, to alter or abolish our current form of government and replace it with one that they consider. And that, wouldn't it be a good idea from now on that whatever arena that you work in, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, that you would base your position, your argument, your political platform, literally chapter and verse from the Constitution? And doesn't it help to realize that the threats that we face are actually already foreseen in the Declaration of Independence? Now, they're not doing it according to of, for, and by the people form of government and voting, etc. They're doing it for a malevolent reason, to destroy the form of government, which is really, this is what we're fighting for, friends: sovereignty. Sovereignty is the right to live under the form of government that we choose. Our sovereignty is defined by the U.S. Constitution, but it's based on what is called natural law. What is natural law? Well, it's the assurance that we live day to day, that in 1 second from now, somebody is going to turn off the gravity switch, and we're going to all go flying into space. We're assured that gravity will continue to work as it's supposed to from day to day. Is that right? But we have the same endowed assurance from the Lord that those unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that we should be just as confident in those as well. And those rights are protected by a legal document written by our founding fathers, known as the U.S. Constitution. And that our adversaries, like the global Islamic movement, also have a definition of sovereignty. It's known as Sharia law. And that our other side, the Reds in the Red-Green Alliance, also have a definition of Sharia, of a sovereignty, based on diversity, inclusion, and fairness. Would you agree that it helps to boil this down to like a handle on a suitcase? Because if you try to drag a 90-pound suitcase through the airport, it's a pretty hard job to do. But if you've got a good solid handle, it's a manageable thing. And what I'm trying to do is, what I've learned from traveling around, is distill the observations and the concerns and feelings of everybody across the country into a takeaway message. What we're fighting for, friends, is our sovereignty. And what are the weapons of this fight? Their Constitution. And here's where our leaders are today, and a lot of the people in our country. But here's how I feel about it. Leaping horny toads, Don't you feel like that too? Notice I didn't have him with a gun on purpose, because I didn't want to accuse of, being whatever that I would be accused of, promoting gun violence with Yosemite Sam. So here's Article 1. What I'm going to do is point some highlights and give you some ammunition, so to speak. Article 1, Section 8, this is the very beginning of the Constitution. The job of the federal government is to establish a uniform rule of what? How can you be naturalized if you don't enter the country legally? Throughout the United States, to provide for calling forth of the militia. Isn't President Trump talking about that on the southern border? And don't they consider him to be a hysterical radical when all he's actually doing is following the Constitution? It shows you how far from center we have come, doesn't it? To execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. The caravan that's parked in Tijuana right now, is that an invasion? How about the insurrections? The outbreaks of violence across the country? Because no wall, no border, not our president resist. And here's Article 4. The U.S. shall guarantee every state in the Union a Republican form of government. That means the right to vote. And shall protect each of them against what? And outbreaks of domestic violence. Did you know that the federal government's primary responsibility is to prevent outbreaks of domestic violence in each state? That's their job. And here's Article 6. I referred to this perhaps earlier. This is the fundamental reason why Sharia law is illegal in the United States, not because of the First Amendment. The First Amendment is an amendment to the articles of the Constitution, which means it doesn't supersede the Constitution, it augments it, which means Article 6 is the platform that any understanding of the First Amendment must be built on. And therefore, according to the Article 6 called the Supremacy Clause, the supreme law of the land is the U.S. Constitution, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Have we seen violations of that principle lately? All the time, don't we? Which shows you, can you imagine how bad it would have been if the unmentionable one had become president? Our country would have continued like this. Meanwhile, if all the President Trump was able to do is keep us even, imagine over time, month after week after year, that's the real measure of what we've been saved from. It's not the line of what President Trump does or doesn't do. It's the comparison of where we would be if she had come into power. Every day, that gap gets bigger and bigger. That's the true thing. And just like the children of Israel, we do need to remember from whence we came or could have come. And it's not theoretical for me, friend. I've had a lot of bullets go right by my ear, and I don't mean actual ones, I mean the political ones. They tried to kill me, put me in jail, ruin my career, and it's the same people that we're seeing on the nightly news now. Same agencies and same type of people. They are merciless. And here is the 14th Amendment. No state shall make or enforce any law which abridges the privileges or immunities of citizens of the U.S. Are sanctuary cities constitutional? Are they abridging the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States? Nor deny any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the law. Are illegal immigrants giving priority protection of the law over U.S. citizens? The main reason why I was investigated 9 times by my own agency over a continuous period of 10 years is because I was ostensibly violating the civil rights and civil liberties and the privacy rights of foreign nationals. Not because of a moral crime or refusal to obey an order, but because I put information in a law enforcement classified database called Derogatory that helped us connect the dots and make cases and prevent people coming into the country that shouldn't be here. That's what I got in trouble for. And a point came in my career of crisis. I had to really pray about what do I do now, because I was ordered to take the information out of the system. So that's the point when I jumped into the next level of the atmosphere. I went to Congress. I have the constitutional right to do it. And the first person that listened to me was Michelle Bachmann. Did Michelle Bachmann pay a price? Remember the fiasco in 2012 when the 5 members of the House wrote the letters concerned about Huma Abedin and the Muslim Brotherhood, and members of their own party criticized them in public? Boehner, Rogers, and the man from Arizona. Now, this is something just happened a day or so ago. Members of Congress are calling for a criminal investigation into Comey, Hillary, and Lynch. And they're charging them, or they're citing statutes that they tried to use to indict me on criminal charges and put me in jail. So I say, how do you like them apples? In fact, here's some more. Have a whole bushel of them. And remember all that I mentioned about going to Congress? Half of the people that signed this letter, which was 11, are friends of mine. By the way, I don't think I put anything in this slide about Mike Pompeo, but 3 conservative groups with, in their words, prominent members of the Conservative Alliance, conservative community across the country, wrote letters of support to Mike Pompeo in the lead up to his nomination and confirmation. And it just so happens I had the opportunity to sign all 3. Which means I have a homework assignment, don't I? I need to write a letter to Mr. Pompeo and send my resume and say, by the way, let me know if I can help you in any way. And all that information that I was told to delete. Did you guys know that I was an entomologist? You know what that is? It's a nerd. I'm a founding member of the Nerd Society. We patented the pen holder, the clipboard, and the white lab coat. And now I have the glasses to go with it. I used to be able to identify an ant at 50 feet away. I can't even see him now, this far away. But I used to crawl around on my hands and knees in all kinds of exotic places. I traveled all over the world as an entomologist. I was a specialist in biological control and reduction of pesticide use and the economics of production agriculture. And I worked in places like Yemen and Egypt and Eritrea and China and South America. And I had a knack for it. And so how in the world did a person that goes from being a founding member of the Nerd Society, who had a degree in entomology from the University of California, who traveled all over the world in agriculture, jump from that to counterterrorism, an armed federal law enforcement officer interviewing terrorists? It's easy. Follow the trail, find the nest. And my dad told me when I was in high school to take shorthand. Now, I want to show you how much of a nerd I really was. There were 17 girls in the class and me. And I never went out on a date with one of them the whole year. But I sure did learn shorthand. And if you read the story in the book, but by the way, this is not about me. It's about you. It's about us. This is 15 years of history. Through a preposterously impossible sequence of events and circumstances, the Lord put me right in the middle of the core of the nuclear reactor. From 9/11 to every one of the major terrorist attacks we've had here, I was involved in the cases. And I kept it all. Not because I thought eventually I might become a whistleblower as my third career. No. It's because law enforcement officers do that. It's called law enforcement. Also known as connecting the dots. Those darn dots. Haney, you need to stop putting those dots in the system, because the very same people that you're putting in the system are the ones that we're inviting into the administration and giving them positions of influence and authority, not only within our counterterrorism policy in the domestic arena, aka the Muslim Brotherhood, CAIR, and Islamic Society of North America at all, but also in the foreign policy arena with things like the Arab Spring, for example. We overtly supported the Muslim Brotherhood in the Middle East. And they destabilized Libya and Egypt and then Syria. And they're working at it right now in Yemen. I used to work in Yemen. So this is all very real to me, friends. None of it is theoretical. Remember the Don Henley song, All She Wants to Do Is Dance? And the wild-eyed pistol wavers that aren't afraid to die? I saw them, wild-eyed pistol wavers that weren't afraid to die. So it never was theoretical for me. There are three arenas that all of us with a flashpoint. Each one of us here will find ourselves best suited for either the social arena, the flashpoint for that is immigration reform. In the political arena, the flashpoint for that is our sovereign alliances with other countries. And the third one is the law enforcement arena. That's the flashpoint for that will be the Muslim Brotherhood designation. Remarkably, I started talking about this before President Trump was elected. He's already addressed the first two, hasn't he? And would you agree that they are flashpoints? That we've had outbreaks of all kinds of chaos across the country in the judiciary and in the social arena because we're trying to bring our immigration policies back into synchronization with the law to protect our own national security. And that in the political arena, the biggest indicator of that is the declaration of Jerusalem as a capital of Israel. Isn't that sovereignty? Don't we have the right to be invited by our host country to put the embassy wherever they ask us to? But the world says no, we don't. There's a perfect illustration of the assault on our sovereignty and on the sovereignty of Israel. And the third one is in play. Hasn't come to the forefront yet. But believe me, if we go to the point of designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, President Trump will send a shockwave around the entire Islamic world without firing a single shot or dropping a single bomb. That's what I call peace with strength. Why don't we try that first before we start conducting tactical operations in foreign arenas? Because if we don't have the wherewithal to recognize the nature of the threat right in front of us, building a wall won't really help us much. So let's start here and work our way out rather than conducting operations over there while we ignore the threat that's right in front of us here. Would you agree with that? Immigration reform, I'm only going to really talk about one thing. And you know the swamp? You've heard of it, right? It's not really the swamp that you should be worried about. It's the creatures that live in it. I'll tell you 4 things that I learned about swamp creatures. Would you like to know? And this is from personal experience. First thing is that swamp creatures are mutant hybrids. They're mutant hybrids of people with D's, R's, and I's after their name. And they become sort of mutated creatures as the longer they live in the swamp. The second one is that they're amphibious. They can actually walk right out of the swamp and sit down right next to you. The third one is that they have extremely sharp teeth and poisonous stingers. And they will sting you in a blink of an eye. And I know what it's like to be stung by swamp creatures. The third one is one of the most mysterious aspects of swamp creatures of all. They have no faces. They're anonymous. These decisions are made by people that you never know who they are. That's what's so remarkable about this letter from Congress. They're actually naming these mutant hybrids. Clinton, Strzok, Page, and so on. I have a lot of hope. After everything that I've gone through, why in the world should I not be hopeful? Besides that, if I was speaking and all I told you was the bad news and that it was hopeless, how many events like this do you suppose I'd be invited to come back to? Not too many. But this one here was, you know, there's Congress. They pass laws. And then remember all those executive orders we heard about when President Obama came in? The third level, we got a lot of pushback from that, so we went to Plan 3, which is to have his secretary level people like my former boss, Jay Johnson and Janet Napolitano, sign directives and send them down the chain of command telling us this is what we're going to do from now on. Law schma. This is the way we're going to do it. And that didn't even work, so they went to stage 4, which was unilateral changes in immigration code by putting them in literally in the middle of the night in the Federal Register. And here's one of the worst ones at all, and this, by the way, has not been amended yet, that they have made a decision that people with only limited material support to known terrorist groups can still get a visa to come into the country. Now, who defines limited? They do. Remember I was telling you about the leftist progressives and how they define the terms? Well, they saturated into the branches of the government, the executive, the judiciary, and the, what's the other one? Legislative, and made these kind of unilateral changes. And they expected us, people who took the vow to help protect our country from threat, to violate our oath of office. When Janet Napolitano resigned from DHS and went out and became the chancellor of the University of California, my poor, hapless alma mater, she began inflicting herself on that system and unilaterally designated the University of California as sanctuary campus, thereby forcing the law enforcement officers who are affiliated with the UC to violate their oath of office. I would like to wonder or ask, how come we're not seeing more whistleblowers come out of that? See what I mean? And the second one we talked about, President Trump did something astonishing. He actually kept a promise. And he designated the capital of Israel as Jerusalem. We're never going to go back to the way it was. But the question then becomes, what was the world's reaction? And here's where we've merged back into from the natural into the supernatural. This thing goes back and forth. By the way, when the verse that says we see through the glass darkly, I'd encourage you to look that word up, darkly. I'll tell you what it is. The word in Greek is enigmata, the enigma. We're not looking through a glass and we're seeing shapes fade in and out through shadows, occasionally getting glimpses fleeting and then they disappear. That's not what the verse means. It means that we see through the veil into eternity, the mystery of eternity. That's our secret weapon, folks. And that's what the Holy Spirit gives us the capacity to do. To be reminded of all that he has taught us, that's past. To lead us and guide us into all truth, that's present. And to show us things to come, that's future. That's exactly the same nature of the Lord himself. I was, I am, I will be. Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. Before Abraham was, I am. The concept of God is that his name is from the verb to be. But superimposed over that is the concept that he is life itself, the self-existent God. That's what his name means. And we have that quality, that nature dwelling within us. Shouldn't we make the most of it? So why we are able to see things ahead is to prepare, so that we will know when the time has come that the battle will be joined in the gate. And this is the last stand. And the Lord has promised, when that moment comes, I will strengthen you. Don't be afraid of it, friends. Run toward it. That's what I did. Not by my own strength or wisdom, but by God's grace. And here's the psalm of our time. This describes biblically exactly what the world is doing. Look at all the verbs. I highlighted them in red. I would really encourage you to go to the original language, use your Strong's Concordance, and look up the depth of the compressed meaning of all these verbs. And you will come to the same conclusion that I did when I did this exercise, that of all the capacity the intelligence, the passions, and the abilities that we're all endowed with as human beings become focused on one singular, misguided goal: to rage against the covenant, to rage against the Lord and his anointed, raging, imagining, setting themselves, taking counsel, breaking things, and casting away things. The whole world is gripped by this psychosis, this insanity. And I do believe that that is going to be part of the blessing that the Lord is going to endow us with. He's going to preserve us from the grip of that demonic insanity, because we are friends with Israel. That's going to preserve us from more than I can possibly exaggerate. Here's the reaction. This is the Muslim Brotherhood, that peaceful religion of Islam. Here's Hamas. It's a war declaration. Here is Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Here is Macron. We heard him in the news lately, didn't we? Recognition of Jerusalem as a threat to peace. Really? How do you define peace? Hezbollah, they've got to get in on the act too. And here comes Erdogan in Turkey, the center of the Gog-Magog alliance. O Gog, Prince of Magog, Meshach, and Tubal. We're seeing previews, friends, emerging like submarines up out of the water. These pieces are being put in place, and we're seeing previews of it, glimpses of it. Remember, through the glass into eternity. The stage is being set. Here's the whole EU, and then Prince Faisal from Saudi Arabia. No, Mr. Trump, Jerusalem is not the capital of Israel. Says who? Says us. And the UN. And he didn't throw one in, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the largest NGO outside of the UN, 57-nation coalition, also said that it's a war crime. The last one is the Muslim Brotherhood designation of the three arenas. This is the group that got me in so much trouble. And the other one was a group called Tablighi Jamaat. And that's connected to Syed Farouk and Tashfeen Malik and Enrique Marquez, and another one, you know, Omar Mateen from Orlando. They're part of the same network. It's a branch of Sunni Islam from the Indian subcontinent. The Lord gave me the wisdom to focus on both the Muslim Brotherhood and this group called Tablighi Jamaat during my career. And those are the cases that the U.S. government eradicated from the system. And that's why I plausibly say, just by doing our jobs as cops, law enforcement officers, that we could have very plausibly prevented Boston Marathon, San Bernardino, Orlando, at least. By the way, did you see any olive branches in there? You know, the white lettering from the right to the left says Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimun. That's Arabic for the Muslim Brotherhood. And down there in the yellow, it says Wayayuda. It means prepare. So what's the natural question? Prepare for what? To slaughter your enemies and terrify them. If this is a moderate organization, then please show me what a radical one is. That's what Clapper said, James Clapper, DNI, that Muslim Brotherhood is a moderate organization with no political goals. How did these geniuses get in such positions of authority? And here's something I wanted to show you. And this word in Arabic up there is a word you all heard. You might not be able to read it, but it's Al-Qaeda. And guess who wrote this? The Muslim Brotherhood. And where did they write it? In 1987. Al-Qaeda didn't start with Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. That was 10 years later. It started here with the Muslim Brotherhood. The phrase Al-Qaeda, it's Al-Mutsima Al-Islamiyya Al-Qaeda. You heard that part. In English, it's called the Observant Muslim Base. Remember yesterday we were talking about the Muslim base? That's the word for that is Al-Qaeda, friends. The first Al-Qaeda was Medina. That was the first base for Muhammad when he was invited to come and take over the leadership of that city. The first thing he did was behead somewhere between 700 and 900 Jews. And took everything that they owned and took over the economy. The city was called Yathrib, Now it's known as Medina. And here's something that we can do. This bill has been languishing, not lounging, on the House floor waiting to be read, actually for about 4 years. And every year, Ted Cruz reintroduces it along with Mario Diaz-Balart from Florida to try to get it read on the floor of the House, to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Meanwhile, CAIR and ISNA and the other groups have saturated themselves into all three arenas: social, political, and law enforcement. I come out of the law enforcement arena. Some of you are going to find yourself most capable of working in the social arena. Others of you will find yourself in the political arena. But find one and take a stand and base your position on citations from the Constitution, of which I gave you a few. I just dissected this guy, Daoud Walid. He wrote an editorial attacking the political candidates in Michigan for governor and for House, calling them fearmongers and haters for having the audacity to bring up their concerns about implementation of Sharia law in Michigan. But Daoud said too much in his editorial. The very last closing paragraph, he said that Muslims in Michigan are already practicing Sharia and that they should explain it to the non-Muslim public and that they shouldn't apologize for it. We have come to a transition point from denial to normalization to ultimate implementation. And don't think that any other state is immune from this, because there's indicators all over the country. So what I did is I took every part of his editorial and I tore it apart and I attached Quranic and or Sharia-based arguments to it, and then I asked him 27 questions. You can look it up on the web. This is the part I'm trying to do to help. And then here is the article that just came out a day or so ago. They're going after, just like they did Michelle Bachmann and Louis Gohmert and the other three other members of Congress, I think it was Trent Franks, who signed those letters to the Inspector Generals back in 2012 about their concerns of the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, here we are, 6 years later. We have a campaign going on in Michigan, and they're doing exactly the same thing. This wouldn't be happening if this organization was shut down. And by the way, friends, FBI has bridges meetings every 2 months with this guy, Daoud Walid. Why? They're not even supposed to be working with them. And how goes the battle? Here I'm going to show you how the battle goes from the political arena and segues right into the social arena. We talked about this, the Alliance of Virtue for the Common Good. This is 09. This is the document that Jim Wallace from Sojourners and the fellow from out in California, Rick Warren, signed. It talks about, here is, our friend today talked about the two houses. Remember that? Well, where did this common word document come from? It came from this place, the Royal Al-Bayt Institute for Islamic Thought. Okay, so what does that mean, by the way, Al-Bayt? If I was a law enforcement officer developing cases on possible threat, don't you think I might be a little bit curious about what that name means? Well, I was, and that's what got me in so much trouble all the time. Al-Bayt means the people of the house. What house? The house of Islam. The people of the house of Islam have this counterfeit outreach program going with the people in the house of war. Remember, where would we start with this presentation? The gate, the battle for war. So I'm going to finish up with this. This is the verse from Quran 364. And this is the where it comes from. The word that is equitable or common, that we should only worship Allah, that He has no partners, and that we shouldn't worship others. It's a denial of the basic tenets of Christian theology. Doesn't anybody have any natural curiosity anymore to look any of this stuff up? Really? Bueller? And here is Bob Roberts. And the fellow on the right is Sheikh Imam Mohammed Ali Majid. And he was within, closer than you guys in the front, to President Trump at the inaugural prayer service at the National Cathedral. Who is doing the background vetting for these individuals? He's a past president of ISNA, a co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation with known direct links to Hamas. These guys are standing within arm's length of our own president. What kind of a signal do you think that sends to the rest of the Islamic world? Here's the what is called the Marrakesh Declaration from 2016. They say right in there that it comes from the Charter of Medina, which is from the year 622. I don't have to connect the dots. They do it for me, for us. There's a continuous thread from 622 to 2018, and I'm just showing you a few of the major steps along the way. There's common word again in the highlighted paragraph. Here's the announcement in the press about the signatories of the Alliance of Virtue for Common Good, which was February 8th, 2018. Here's the thing about the evangelicals, and here's what Rob Roberts said. Evangelicals are making it much worse. He said, of the negative views of many Americans have of Islam, and pastors are worse than the people in the pews. This is one of our own supposed co-believers. They're putting a laser beam dot on the evangelical community. And here's a woman who said, we've been a white Christian nation for 200 years. It's not our future. It's not bad. The most important thing you can do is call out your own tribe. They're pushing us into a corner, friends. And why do I mean us? Because we are the people that cling to our guns and Bibles. And we are the ones that are going to stand up and defend the principles of our faith. To be ready to give an answer to all those who ask us about the hope that lies within us. But we're going to be obstacles turning the world upside down to this glorious vision of interfaith harmony and global peace. Any questions? I got 53 seconds to spare. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you learn a couple new things, that this gives you a handle. Paul said that we should strive to apprehend what we were apprehended for. And I really do hope that this will be an encouragement. That I will finish with Lincoln, his second address. I referred to a bit of it. That the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulties, but we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and we must act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we, all of us, shall save our country, the last best hope on earth. And with that, Lord bless you and thank you.
Great presentation by Phil Haney. By the way, that's one example of all the great presentations, 35 years of presentations in our vault. Now, if you want to join the vault, you'll be able to live stream tomorrow night's rally with over 1,300 people registered. You'll be able to live stream it if you're a vault member. Look at here, you can join for as little as $7.99 a month, folks. It's another great way to support us, big part of our operating budget. $8.99 a month gets you the 6-month plan, or pay month to month, $9.99. Join, and you can live stream our event out of the Waukesha Expo Center tomorrow night with Andy Woods, myself, and our reporter from Israel live in the building, Aaron Lavarco. Go on over and join. worldviewtube.com/vault. worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, if you would like to promote our network to all your family and friends, Go to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com, and get some of the free business cards. We'll send a pack of 20 to you, absolutely free of charge, and you can pass them out to family and friends and let them know all about Worldview Tube and all of our free programs. Don't you think, Dolly? Don't you think they should do that? Yeah, just keep your feet off the desk, that's all. You don't need to put your feet up on the table. It's not good manners. Worldviewstore.com. All right? We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Till next time at Brennan House. May God save America. Take care. Eat the tea.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us on this April 14th, 2025. We are up in the Midwest, just not far from Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, as we get ready and are excited about our Worldview Radio Rally tomorrow night at the Waukesha Expo Center. We are now over 1,300 people registered. And you can still do that. It's free, but you must register so we can have enough seats ready to go. And that is, of course, at worldviewtube.com/events. I also give you a phone number here if you want to get a pin. If you are one of those folks listening on radio who says, Brandon, I don't have a computer. Well, first of all, I'm a little envious because that would be a nice life in some ways for sure. Would it not, Dalton? Not have to deal with computers. And some of you don't have them. You don't want them. You don't want them. Dalton's laughing. He knows what I'm talking about. He doesn't want, some of you don't have a computer, you don't want a computer, but you do want to register for tomorrow night. So I'll give you a phone number in a minute. Otherwise, those of you who do, please register at worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. The number, I'm guessing by now you've had time to grab a pen and paper. If you prefer to register by phone, Melissa will gladly help you. 901-825-0652. You can also text her and just say, hey, these two people, these three people, and she'll add it to the tally sheet. 901-825-0652, 901-825-0652, or the easiest way for everybody, worldviewtube.com/events. I'm going to have Dr. Andy Woods on for a moment, as well as Aaron Lavarco, but then I want to talk about this. Have you guys seen this? I talked about it, I don't know, 10 days ago or so. On Brandon House Live at Night, and somehow after that it got picked up by, not because I talked about it, but I saw it all of a sudden got picked up by a lot of media outlets. I don't know what sparked this, but I guess maybe it was the declassified records. This is the New York Post reporting this. It's been reported many places. Declassified Cold War era CIA files details Soviet clash with aliens who witnesses say turned soldiers to stone. Wow. We are, of course, involved in a great spiritual battle. It seems as though UFOs keep coming up over and over. I have some great quotes by Dave Hunt from his book, Peace, Prosperity, and the Coming Holocaust. I was reading over the weekend again, Marx and Satan, as I prepare for my talk tomorrow night, which is going to be on Satanism, globalism, and spiritual deception. What a interesting time that was, putting that presentation together. And I have more information that I'm going to be able to get into my keynote talk, because that is something we could talk about for days, and we probably will actually come back here on radio and talk about some of this on radio, because there was so much information I had to leave out. But we are involved in a spiritual battle that really comes down to this, folks, since Genesis 3 in the Garden of Eden, a great spiritual battle between God and Satan. Satan's trying to establish a kingdom. He'll get it for a period of time. We know that because Daniel 2 says God's kingdom comes and it crushes Satan's kingdom. So we know he gets one for a period of time. There's a great spiritual battle going on between God and Satan. And so many of the things that we talk about today, Hinduism, the New Age movement, all of these things are just masking terms for various forms of Satanism. That's what we'll get into tomorrow. But I want to talk a little bit today about the CIA and this declassified documents where the Soviets say they had a clash with aliens, and the witnesses say that they saw the soldiers turned into stone. Huh. I don't know about that, but I'm going to report about it. Joining me first, however, is Aaron Lavarco, and our reporter from Israel who's in the U.S., about to board a flight to come here to the Midwest. And we are joined by phone in his car, Dr. Andy Woods. Dr. Woods, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brandon, good to be here. Looking forward to being with you tomorrow evening.
We are as well, my friend. And Aaron, I know you're about to board a flight to come here in the Midwest. Thanks for joining us by phone at the airport.
Pleasure to be with you both and the viewers. Thank you.
Let's go to you first, Aaron, because I know you might have to go pretty quick here to get on a flight. Give us the latest coming out of Israel, and are you honing your talk for tomorrow night?
I am excited, very excited, Brandon. I've been thinking and contemplating. I got some good material to share. Yeah, I'm really excited to be there. I'm going to be boarding my flight any minute. I got about 10 minutes here, so let me get to the point. The major issues right now, Brandon, are there's a brand new negotiating plan on the table. Israel has basically put on the table that we will, if we get 10 living hostages back, then we will declare a 45-day ceasefire, and we will withdraw from ground that we have taken over in the last number of weeks from the Gaza Strip. This is a big plan because, and I think it's a strategic plan because I think there are other plans behind the scene, and I'm talking about Iran, Brandon. Donald Trump has made it clear again. He's saying that while the negotiations are going on with the Iranians, that if there's not a breakthrough, he keeps on saying there are other options. So that 45-day plan for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip could be very strategic. I can't say for sure about that. So this is the big news going on. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I was awakened yesterday morning by my app, my Red Alert app, that does not go off very often lately. You know, it used to go off all the time, but I was awakened yesterday morning early by my Red Alert app going off, and then again, I think later in the day, I heard it going off. So obviously, you have rockets coming in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, during the ceasefires with Lebanon, with Gaza, this is what our enemies have been able to do. They've been able to restock, repile, and we have not finished off the job. So they continue to fire at us. We continue to be on alert, no question about it. What's interesting is Donald Trump, any day now, he is going to be meeting with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. I think that's going to be very, very important. Don't know what exactly is going to come out of that. Who knows? This could be the Abraham Peace Accords that we've been waiting to hear about, that Saudi Arabia have been talking possibly of joining in. Remember, I mentioned the other day, I reported that Saudi Arabia have basically said, we are done with the Palestinian issue. We're done with that cause. That is no longer our cause. Maybe they strategically proclaim that in order to take the next step to make peace with Israel. And the other big news, and it's been confirmed, that members of the Israeli government have secretly met with members of the newly formed Syrian government. This is, Jolani, who had a $10 million bounty on his head, but we have been making negotiations. What they are about, we don't know. No news. But that is really interesting, the fact that this newly formed rogue nation made up of ISIS and Al-Qaeda are actually sitting talking with Israel. And there is talk about, or rather speculation, that there could be normalization relationships between the new Syria and Israel. I think we're going to have to be very careful as we tread on those grounds, but they are the major news going on from Israel at the moment, Brandon.
I see one article today where at worldviewreport.com saying by one author at the Gatestone Institute, don't waste your time. Iran's mullahs will not abandon their nuclear program. You feel the same way, Aaron?
100%, Brandon. There's no way they're going to abandon it. Absolutely not. They've been too dedicated for too many, literally, decades. They've invested too much time, too much money. It would be too humiliating to them. Even if they, go down with their ship, they will not abandon it. And I believe Trump knows this. I believe Israel knows this. And they're preparing. They're getting ready for this. I believe as we're speaking, the fingers are on the triggers. Iran are waiting for an attack. So they're not going to abandon it. And they're going to try and draw out, prolong a sense of dialogue to make that they're trying to make progress. But they're not going to change. A leopard doesn't change the color of its spots. The only way I think that they're going to abandon it is if someone or some group from within them overthrows the leadership, takes over the leadership, and is serious. And that's what happened in Libya. The Libyans, they were serious. They laid it down. If not, they're going to pay big time.
We're going to let you go, Aaron, so you can make your flight, because we don't want you to miss that. Looking forward to having you with us tomorrow night at the Waukesha Expo Center. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron checking in, our reporter, normally in Israel, but on the ground in the U.S. and now headed toward the Midwest to Waukesha area to be ready for tomorrow night. Dr. Andy Woods joins us for a few more minutes here by phone. Dr. Woods, I notice that there seems to be some indication in the scripture that after the Gog-Magog scenario, the invasion by this coalition of nations on Israel, that Israel is burning the enemies of their nation for what, 6 months or something to that effect? Or no, excuse me, 7 years? Is that correct?
Yeah, there's going to be a 7-year burning of weapons, and I think there's, if memory serves, 7 months burying the dead in the land of Israel.
The dead of their enemies are so abundant inside the borders of Israel. It takes them 7 months to bury the dead of their enemies. But then you got 7 years of burning the weapons, which begs the question, if Iran is prone not to giving up their nuclear weapons, and they are one of the nations involved in the Gog-Magog scenario to come against Israel, do you believe these weapons that are being burned or destroyed are of a nuclear fashion?
I do, because I've had military people comment on Ezekiel 39, by the way, which is where we get those figures from, and they say that's the exact procedure, and they've actually showed me the manual.